Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 163 of the Rouge Rugby podcast. My name is Derek Brissett, and on this episode, we will take a deep dive into the Arrows' historic 80-5 defeat at the hands of the New England Free Jacks. The Academy also played a game against Quebec. We'll take a little look at that. All the rest of the MLR action from week 9, and as we officially hit the midway point of the season, it'll be time to dive into some stats from the first half of the year. And to do that, we are joined by no other than the king of rugby sabermetrics, Mr. MLR Stats himself, James Deeley. James, how are you today? And thanks for coming on.
Hi, Derek. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good. I've recovered a little bit from, as you say, the historic loss.
Yeah, it was a tough weekend. Obviously it was nice to join you in the beer garden after. I think the beer garden was a little bit busier than usual, I think, after the game, and I think it's just it was the closest place to get a drink following watching that performance.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Plenty of drowning your sorrows for sure. It was a good crowd. Like, generally speaking, it was a very good crowd.
Yeah, it was. It was a very good crowd. It's I mean personally, in my opinion, it is one of those things where, like, we all want to see MLR grow, and we want to see rugby grow as a whole in North America. And the reality, I think, in my opinion, the reality of any professional sports league is that only one team is going to be the champion. But all the teams in the league, in this case the MLR, all the other 11 teams, and soon to be 12 teams, I guess, when Miami joins, but there's only one champion, but everybody has to sell tickets and merch. And one of those things is, like, you got to have a nice match day experience and stuff. So I think the Arrows have been doing a really good job of facilitating that, and I think, like, a little bit of the crowd sticking around post game to just hang out in the garden and stuff is part of that. So I mean, if there's any positives to take away from this game, the garden's awesome. It's a great experience.
Yeah, the garden is good fun. I know, I was there as well last week. There were quite, I think there was some issue. They only had the one food stand, and they had some issues with power for that at the start too, but they seem to have rectified that, and they brought in another food vendor as well, just to make sure there was something for everyone. So they're clearly listening and know how to improve, and they're tailoring it as the season goes on. I know we're in week 9 of the season. It's only week 2 for home games, so in Toronto anyway.
And it's only really the third year the Arrows have gotten to play home games. Realistically, like, as weird as that is to say, I know you put out that thing earlier being like how good their home record is, and they were like, oh yeah, it's the sixth year in the league they've played, or fifth year in the league they've played 16 home games.
16 of their 60 games, in Toronto. Home. They've had home games. Half of them were in Atlanta. There was one in BC. There was one home game, I think it was in 2020. It was in 2021. No, yeah, Vegas. I didn't even think of. It was 2021. They were billed as the home team against LA in New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah. That was during the COVID year.
That was why they were in Atlanta anyway.
Yeah, like, they couldn't use the field in Atlanta for some reason or whatever.
Whether it was ATL using it or Life University, I'm not sure if they were sharing it that season. I can't remember. But yeah, that was a funny one.
I think that was because that was part of the weird thing, is that, like, LA and Toronto played each other a couple times, but neither game was in LA or Toronto.
Yeah.
I think even weirdly too, going before we kind of segue into this Arrows game, I think this was the first game Ben Lesage has actually played in Toronto.
Really?
After I thought of it, because he joined the team in 2020, right? So he would have played the 5 games at the
5 games, which wasn't a home game.
I can't remember if he got hurt or missed any of those games, but he would have played the 5 games in 2020, right? The season would have ended. Then he played the season in Atlanta and then went to LA.
And LA didn't play in Toronto.
And then LA didn't play in Toronto, and then he's on.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's
right?
wild.
Yeah, exactly. So he joined the Arrows in 2020. Played for 2 years. Never played a game in Toronto. This would have been in Ben Lesage's first game in Toronto in the MLR, despite not only playing for the Arrows for 2 years, but then also playing games against the Arrows in other years. But
it was, I had in my head, I was thinking, like, I don't think Toronto ever played at the LA Coliseum, and
No,
that's an even wilder stat. There's so many weird, quirky things to do with the arrows about
oh
them
yeah.
not having played in Toronto.
Oh yeah, no, it's yeah, exactly. It's so bizarre. I'm glad I got to impress you with one piece of statistical knowledge though before we dive into this.
It didn't even occur to me. I just thought, yeah, he must have done.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
was.
Because that was like halfway through last year too. Tommy Della Vega played his first because he was injured for a bit last year. So it
Yeah,
wasn't until like whatever that would have been the fourth or fifth home game the Arrows had that he actually played his first game in Toronto too.
yeah. I remember talking to him after that game and him
Yeah.
saying like, "This was my first game here." I was like,
Yeah, and it's like,
"What?"
and again, he would have been on the. He joined the team in 2020 as well.
Must have been the same year. Yeah,
Yeah, same year as
crazy.
Lesage, and then it was like, yeah, nobody's like, it's so bizarre. All right, so have we done enough avoiding talking about this game? Or
Yeah, I suppose we have probably
yeah,
probably done
unless
enough.
anything else you want to talk about, we can. Mandalorian theories for the finale. It's coming up. It'll be out by the time this podcast is out. You could be right. You could be wrong. I don't know anything.
Oh yeah, let's see. I can barely remember what happened last episode. No,
Well,
I'm gonna have to.
yeah, we'll
I
we'll
have
come
been
back. We'll
watching
come
it.
back to the Mandalorian theories at the
Yeah.
end. So the I guess I'll just try to rip the band-aid off here. The New
Mm.
England Free Jacks, as you pointed out while we were watching the Academy game, you noticed the bus coming by, and pointed that out. And the bus arriving safely to the stadium turned out to be the turning point of this game, and because it basically went downhill for the Arrows from there. The New England
Yeah.
Free Jacks run in 12 tries, just to confirm that's an MLR record, right?
Yes, certainly is.
For 80 total points, also an MLR record, I believe.
Yes, an MLR record.
Yeah. Andrew Quattrin, former Arrow, 2 tries. LaRue Milan, 2 tries, 2 penalty tries. And then Jacobson, Poland, Philemon, Balakenya, Johnston, and Davowitz all had tries in this game. Pot Roast was 8 for 10 on conversions, and he should be ashamed of himself for missing those 2. Dreadful performance. The Arrows were still in this game because of those 2 missed conversions.
Absolutely, yeah. Only
Yeah.
54-0 down at half time. Exactly where we want
Yeah,
them.
exactly. So I mean, I don't know. I would start a new fly half next week. I don't think if I'm New England,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
start
Give
somebody
Reese
else.
McDonald a chance or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was a chance to break another MLR record. I think
Oh
I
yeah.
think Sam Malcolm has the record for most successful kicks in a game at 9.
Oh,
So if he
see,
if he if he got all 10,
yeah. Well, see, there you go. He blew something. He blew it. He blew it. It was a
he blew
chance.
it. Yeah.
He'll never get this chance again. Right. So
That was the
that's on him.
arrows were in their head then. They
Yeah.
had that record.
Exactly. And yeah, we had the Arrows. One positive thing though. Noel Reed got his first MLR.
First MLR try, first try as an arrow, yeah, from another bit of characteristically strong ball carrying from Faleva and a nice offload. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a great offload. That was I think Lucas Rumball had a breakdown steal somewhere. That was another positive thing.
Yeah, well, it's a day ending in Y.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Day ending in Y. But all right. James, thoughts on this one? Any talking points that you want to hit from this game?
I was talking to my the friends I was there with after the game.
Mhm.
I don't think the Arrows went 10 minutes without conceding at any point during the game.
Well, I guess it rounds out to what, a try or a point a minute, right?
A point a minute, yeah. 12 tries.
We can go through it. 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 13 minutes. We actually might be on this. So 13 minutes, and the next one's at 24 minutes.
Oh, that's 11.
That's 11 minutes without conceding a try there. That was 11 minutes. Wow. I'm actually excited about that. And then we got 24, 32, 36, 39, 47, 54, 66, and 71.
Oh, so there was 12 minutes in there. There we go.
Oh, there's another 12 minutes. Yeah, so there you go. We're getting there. We're finding some positives in this Arrows performance.
I do remember thinking towards. In fact, I messaged you, and I was asking about the wrong referee.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, I don't think that's him, but
well, It was
I
only
think
after I watched another game later in the weekend, I
yeah,
was like, oh no, that's him.
mm,
So yeah, my apologies.
yeah,
But I still think the point was quite valid. I think there were some funny decisions in the
there
game,
were, yeah.
not that they would have changed the outcome
No,
particularly.
um, no, yeah. Lucas Rumball, I think at points was deservedly heated, with the
Mm-hmm.
official. Um, especially after that one called back try, that
They had one
Fedor,
called back try, and then I think a
I think
penalty
that's
try conceded in
yeah,
quite quick succession.
yeah, because they ran it back. I think New England ran that back, and that was when Fedoric knocked the ball back into
Yeah, which
touch.
I also don't think is illegal. I didn't
Yeah,
think it was
I was,
illegal.
you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I'm not, I'm not a referee at all. I feel like every rugby game I watch, I learn something new about the rule.
Yeah,
But my gut reaction, and if that's the right call, then like fair play to the
yeah. If it
official.
is,
If it's correct, fair play to him.
then whatever.
Um, but I'm just kind of like rewatching that play. I'm like, I don't know what Fatorik can do. Like you're just like
No,
at
the
that,
passenger already makes
yeah.
well, I
Like
guess a
I'm
professional
almost,
foul.
yeah, exactly. So I'm almost just like it's weird because it looks like unless he's like really has the confidence and the time or the ability to be like actually catch the ball and ground it,
Mm.
like which I suppose maybe you could do, but I'm like it almost feels like if that's going to be a yellow card, you might just be better off letting him score because then
Yeah, and then
you
you're
give up the try, maybe they miss the conversion and you're not down a man again.
exactly.
um
Yeah, it was
like
very strange because it was like,
yeah,
well, it's not a knock on, so
yeah, no, because it's backwards, it's clearly backwards, but
yeah. So what's the
um
call? If it goes out the end, it's not a penalty try. It's I think a 5 meter scrum. I can't remember.
yeah,
But yeah, that was
I guess it
an
has
interesting
something to do
call.
with the intent. Which again though I find odd because at the end of the game, that's how the game ends is Patros turns around and kicks it through the back of his try zone. Right?
Yeah,
That's how the
yeah.
game ends.
Which is nice of the Free Jacks to actually have some mercy and end the game themselves.
Mercy. Yeah. Well, actually, I think that was Patros actually trying to hit a drop goal, but he missed again because he's just
Oh yeah, yeah.
he had an
He's
off game.
washed up.
Yeah, exactly. He had an off game. He
Only
missed.
had 80%
Yeah.
of his kicks. Yeah,
Only had
but
6
there was
points in the
yeah,
game.
there were a couple of funny calls. That being one, the
Yeah.
other yellow card also being one. And I'm not saying that shouldn't have been a yellow card, but there was pretty much an identical incident
Last week that wasn't.
last week that was, and later in the game that wasn't.
Yeah. I think
Um,
Ball brought that up too. Because I
yeah, yeah.
later, yeah.
Not that it would have mattered. Like I said, it might have, maybe 20 point swing. Like we might have got a try while if they had a guy in the bin, we might have, had that try that was disallowed, allowed.
Yeah. I think like maybe like it's one of those things where I'm like watching this game. Obviously, um, the Free Jacks completely dominated this game. There's
And pretty
no
much
question.
every aspect.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Um, this ref could have been 100% perfect, flawless, no complaints, and the Arrows still would have lost this game.
Yeah, it
It's
might
more
have been like
frustrating, but they would have lost.
48, 50, 58 to 10. It wouldn't have been
Yeah.
close.
Well, like, yeah, that's the thing. Maybe Fatorik's try counts. The only thing is, like, maybe that swings momentum a little bit for
Yeah,
the.
well, that's what I was going to bring up next. Actually, is the momentum. The Free Jacks score that early try through Q in the 3rd minute or whatever. Then
Mhm.
Peter Nelson gets the yellow card in the 5th minute,
Yes.
and you're down 7 with a man off, and you've barely blinked. You're 5 minutes into the game,
Yeah.
and I think they might have just been on the back foot straight away. Even that first scrum, the Free Jacks just dominated it. And I think the Arrows gave up scrum penalties in their first 2 scrums. So there was
Oh,
just
yeah. Plus the penalty try, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, which was a scrum as well.
Yeah.
So they had no luck in the set piece. They had no luck with some of the 50-50 calls, let's say. I don't think I think the ref was looking out for Toronto to make mistakes because they had in the past, they had earlier in the game. He knew what to look for. It just felt like absolutely everything was working for New England. Everything was working, everything was clicking, and absolutely nothing was going Toronto's way. Absolutely nothing. Ball was barely finding going to hand. I've got a stat here saying the leading meters gained for the arrows,
Mhm.
Mitch Richardson. Guess how much?
Uh, I have the tab opened, but I don't know.
Uh,
No, I was gonna say I'm not gonna cheat. I'm not gonna look at it. I'll be on. I don't know. He led the team in
he
meters.
led the
Meters or
led the
carries?
team.
Meters. I don't know, 60 something.
42.
Oh, that's much worse.
And that was and he made the most ground with ball in hand of any Toronto player.
How many guys on New England had more than 42?
I think some of the
You have
subs had more than 42. Like
that?
like the replacement front rows probably had close to 42.
Do you have the possession territory numbers in this for this game?
Let's see. I could probably get them if you give me a couple of minutes. What I did notice when I was looking at the stats is both teams missed 23 tackles each, and
Right.
New England actually made more tackles,
New
which
England made
is
more tackles than the Arrows in this game?
yep, 165 for the Free Jacks to 135 for Toronto, and they both missed 23. So
That's not good. That doesn't seem good, I
no,
guess. Um,
sorry, you
Now I
would
really want to
expect
know what that possession number is
yeah,
because
you'd expect the team that made more tackles to be lower on territory, lower on possession, but apparently not.
yeah, yeah, that does sound quite bizarre because I mean, like, even I feel like sometimes even like looking at, I find tackles can be a very like interesting stat to look at
Mm,
sometimes because even like following like your work and when you post like the top 10 tacklers after after like each round and it's like there's a lot of like say Dallas Jackals in that top 10 and then I watch the Dallas Jackals play and I'm like, oh, like they don't touch the ball that often,
yeah, yeah,
right?
they don't.
And it's not that I'm not trying to say that the Jackals are a bad tackling team, but I'm just like they have a lot of chances to make tackles because they
No,
basically
well,
never touch the ball, right?
clearly they are a good tackling team. They get a
Well,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
practice of
exactly.
it.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Like, is there tackle percentage? Is that like a available stat that you're able to get, or is that
I can work it out myself, but
yeah?
it's not like
It's
listed,
not
and I
like yeah,
don't
you can't
can't
bully.
obviously compare things. But
Because
yeah,
I feel like that would be a thing that I would be really interested in, like seeing, like maybe like over the course of a year would be like who had the best like say tackle percentage over like X amount of tackles to get rid of the guys that played one game and made 5 from 5 tackles or something.
yeah. That's something I've been thinking about of doing. When the
Yeah.
season's done, when the regular season's done, or when everything's done, is highest, most successful tackles percentage wise
Yeah.
from those that made over 50 tackles. Um, I think that could be quite interesting. Yeah, it seems weird because, like you mentioned, the Dallas Jackals, they always have. I think they've got three of the top six, or at least last week had three of the top six tacklers in the league. But last year, the Free Jacks did. They always had guys at the top, but the Free Jacks were winning a lot.
They were, but I think the Free Jacks, even though they were winning last year, seemed like they were comfortable with maybe playing territory a little bit more and didn't worry about so much possession that much. Or at least that was
Yeah,
my read on the Free Jacks last year is they were a team that was obviously winning, but they're also very good defensively and I think maybe comfortable, almost like maybe almost like South Africa kind of that are like very comfortable playing without the ball and kind
that's
of
true. If they were in the lead, they know they can. Their defense is pretty stalwart, so they were confident in that maybe.
yeah, and I like yeah, I think there's that, but there's not many Free Jacks in the top 10 this year though, is there?
No, no,
Right?
there's
It's not like
not.
there's none, right? And they're clearly the best team in the Eastern Conference, right?
Yeah,
So,
I'd agree. Yeah, I don't know whether they did have quite a lot of turnover, like player turnover. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know whether that's kind of altered the way they're playing the game. It doesn't really feel like it. It feels like
no,
they're still playing kind of the Free Jacks brand, but they're not tackling as much. Doesn't feel like it anyway.
I wonder if that's some like like you said, maybe something for a different time. Go back and see how their possession numbers or something change because I think I remember talking about it on the podcast last year of kind of being like they have a lot of tackles, but maybe they didn't have the ball as much, and maybe they have the. I mean, if this game's any indication, they look like they have the ball a lot.
Yes, yeah.
If
I'm
this,
just going through. I can't actually find the possession and territory, which is quite annoying. But do you wanna know some funny little quirks about this? Some more quirks about this game.
oh, all right, yeah. Well, I mean,
Uh,
I feel like every stat in this game is somewhat historic now, so we might as well go
yeah,
through.
probably.
Yeah,
Toronto had more passes and more effective passes, so more. They didn't miss as much.
that probably suggests that they had the ball more if they made more passes.
Exactly. Yeah. Offloads were 11 for Toronto, 23 for New England.
That makes sense
Line breaks 7
for New England.
for New England, 1 for Toronto.
That makes sense.
And handling errors, 14 for Toronto, 16 for New England. Wouldn't have guessed that.
Weird. Weird. Those are okay. That's kind of weird, actually. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, 14 for Toronto, I feel like tracks. But I feel like New England, I don't know, New England in this game, I feel like just presented themselves as like clinical.
Yeah.
16. They obviously had a lot of line breaks. I thought Spencer Jones, to like shout out some former Arrows here that played great in this game. I thought Spencer Jones did really well with some kicks that he chased down too, and like putting the ball over the top. I don't know if that counts as a line break, but that definitely contributed to a lot of those offload numbers for sure. With the
Yeah.
cheeky
Yeah.
kicks over the top that Jones just ran up and regathered before Nelson or anybody else could get to them, because that sprung a couple big free jacks opportunities and stuff. And maybe the clinicalness is just more of like every time the free jacks had a scoring opportunity, they just cashed in on it because it was
Yeah. Yeah. I
funny.
got exactly the same impression that
Yeah.
this is what I was saying when I was saying there's been some iffy calls, but wouldn't have mattered. Free Jacks were what felt like they were absolutely perfect on the day.
Oh,
I don't know whether that's the case or whether it's relatively to the Arrows when nothing was going right.
yeah,
They
I
seemed
know.
perfect. The Arrows have had a problem converting in the opposition 22 all year, and even
Yeah.
I think even last year they were second or third lowest in tries scored, and
Yeah,
and
they
that's
were lower.
including Dallas, obviously, which we kind of write that season off. But they've had problems scoring tries for quite well for a year and a bit now.
Yeah.
I had thought it was over given last week where they gave the reigning champs a good old run for their money, but maybe not.
I think I think that's kind of the weirdest thing about this game though. And I know like last week Deshaun Bowen kind of just had an X factor like
Hmm.
over the game type situation from him, which was unreal to see given that it was his first MLR start.
Yeah,
But like I think that's the thing that like coming away from this game fascinates me the most about it, because like I mean like being on the field after the game, you could see how like dejected the players were. Like I mean like any Arrows fan, like if you're upset about it, trust me, like you're nowhere near as upset about this as them,
I was just about to say the same thing.
as
Yeah,
the players. Like there's like I don't know, there's no like questioning like the heart of the team at this point, I don't think. But um I guess was kind of going to say like, oh man, I'm kind of mixing up my train of thought here, but like that's the weird part to me was like they played maybe arguably their best game of the year last week against New York,
hmm
even including the game they actually won against Chicago. They probably played arguably their best game of the year against New York, finally got a try bonus point,
yeah,
and then followed it up with easily the worst game they've ever played in the history of the franchise.
yeah. Arguably the worst game any MLR team has ever played. It's
Yeah,
the largest
I was being
league winning
nice, just
margin.
going the franchise, but if we want to
It
go
is
even
it's
further,
definitely that. I tweeted something out earlier. Before 2023, the Arrows had lost by more than 25 points twice, ever.
okay,
This season, 4 times already.
yeah,
And it's the first time they've ever conceded over 50. Significantly over 50.
yeah. They went all the way over 50. Yeah,
Yeah. So I actually going back to what you said about being on the field afterwards, I was watching your post match interview with Lucas Rumble, and he mentioned something I think is pretty much sums up this team this year, which is they're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
which really, they had their defense was stellar against Atlanta. Their offense wasn't ticking until the last 10 minutes, and when O'Leary came on, and we thought, oh my God, this guy's a mastermind, and they scored those 10 points, and then we were like, they might do it. They could come back and win that one.
hmm
Chicago, that was a one-man show. That was Sam Malcolm just being Sam Malcolm. The game against New York was also a one-man show. Deshaun Bowen just
yeah.
taking the game by, kicking and screaming, dragging the arrows to 2 points in the standings. It doesn't. Do the arrows need? They can't have a spectacular performance every week from one player. They can't have one player dragging them every single week, and it feels like, well, they've had to at the minute. Um, they had a lot of possession against Dallas because everyone has a lot of possession against Dallas. That was a winnable game. Atlanta, as I already mentioned, was a winnable game. New York was a winnable game. So here's an interesting question. If we had won all three of those games, we'd entered today with a 4-3. Oh, today we'd have gone into this weekend against New England with a 4-3 record. Would that make it worse that we lost by 75 points if we were 4-3, or would you rather go in 1-6 and lose that badly?
Um, you know what? I think there in any scenario that you just presented there, I would much rather be. Would you say 3-4? I would much rather be 4-3 and 5.
4-3, they'd have been positive.
Yeah, they would be. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in any situation that you could possibly present, I would much rather be 4-3 and then lose by 75 points than be 1-7 and then lose by 75 points. But
I guess then there would be the conversation about
yeah,
sort of what's happening with Nola Gold is that, let's assume we'd have won those games, the winnable games, the games where the Toronto Arrows actually look like they're competing and turned up and it's within their reach. They've won all of those, then their three losses would have been what, a 36-point loss where they scored 3 points, a 26-point loss where they scored 3 points,
yeah,
and a 75-point loss where they scored 5 points.
yeah.
So that would be okay. We can show up, we can win against these teams, or we reign it. We don't show up.
Yeah, I think part of that though goes back to like when Lucas Rumble called them a Jekyll and Hyde team. Um, it's like part of me thinks that's in reference to like say for the obvious contrast, the game against New York last week, you played great. Unfortunately that you lost, but you played great.
Mm.
Maybe could have won that game. Right. And then this week, it's the worst game you've ever played. So that's kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. But I also kind of think they're Jekyll and Hyde in the same game. Right. Like you go from like that game against Atlanta, there's like no attack,
Mm.
10 minutes. Like Atlanta's defense has no answers for them in the final 10 minutes of the game. Right. And it's like they hit a switch mid game, or like they'll do everything right to get down to the 22 or get that 5-meter line out, then a switch hits and they go back to, okay, here's a knock on, here's a missed line out.
Yeah.
And it's like I think it's, to me, it just seems like it's not just like a Jekyll and Hyde like week to week. It's like Jekyll and Hyde like in the games themselves individually too.
That's a good point. Like I do get it because I have been looking at them when not in possession, and it even in the games where they get smoked, I've been like, their defense looks pretty solid
The defense isn't bad. I mean, obviously they have what
today.
significantly.
This week excluded.
Well, yeah,
It was quite bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think even going into this week though, they probably had conceded the most points in the league.
Yeah, I think so, and scored the fewest. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem. That's not. I don't need to know anything about stats, but those two stats, if you're at the bottom of the league in both of those, probably a bad sign. But yeah, like there's a lot of times where I'm like, the defense isn't bad. Like they have a couple nice like goal line stands and stuff.
Mm.
They're not. There's like, they're making tackles while they're still doing well at the breakdown. Like we even said, like last week, James O'Neill made like the MLR team of the week, and he was pretty like outstanding at the breakdown and had
Yeah,
nice steals and turnovers and tackles and stuff. Lucas Rumball was probably their best player this week too, doing the same thing. Even a couple of those tries, even though Deshaun Bowen scored them, a couple of those tries were started by nice defensive plays, right? They had the one try,
yeah.
the Mike Shepard tackle that caused a turnover, and then the combined from a few offloads from a couple guys that ended up in Bowen's hands, and he finished that try. It's like a 95-meter team try in all reality.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It wasn't just Bowen. It was a
Yeah, it's
magnificent finish, but
yeah,
they got the
exactly.
other 60 meters or whatever through 3 or 4 guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and same with that Rumball try at the end of the game too. It was
Mm.
like that was I believe that was a scrum like deep or like I don't know, maybe 30 meters into their own end, and then they went wide across the field. Fatorik had a big break. They came all the way back. Rumble. There's the quick tap from Brody mixed in there. Rumble scores.
Brody's been fantastic the
Brody's
last
been
few weeks.
unreal this year. Unreal this year.
Yeah, he's been amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, yeah. There's like it's weird because it's like I don't know. Like, is that even part? I wonder if that even goes back to like the Jekyll and Hyde-ness of the team too. Is like you have guys like Faleva is, I think, has even been like team of the week a couple times. Like
He's been magnificent as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
Faleva's been unreal. Brody's been unreal. Rumball's kind of always unreal. Sam Malcolm is Sam Malcolm.
Sam Malcolm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Fabian Goodall's been great. The
Goodall's
guys
been-
brought in.
yeah,
They have good players. They're a good team, but
it's
just not
and then
clicking.
nothing clicks. Everything goes.
Yeah.
And it's like you have not only that, but it's like somehow can't score when it matters, and then also
Yeah.
like, nobody can stay healthy. I like even
No. Yeah.
yeah, like nobody can stay healthy, and it's like even like we'll wait to see the injury report, but I mean we saw the arrows like coming to the garden after, and it's like yeah, there's guys that look pretty banged up after the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Symington went off pretty early. Don't know if it
Yeah,
was an
he went off
HIA or
early,
what.
but then he came back on though. I think that
Oh,
was
did he?
yeah.
Oh,
I'm not sure
okay.
if that was an H. I guess that was probably like an HIA or like a blood sub or something.
He might have come back on because they didn't have any subs because they got some more injuries. I don't know.
Yeah,
But it was
like because no, I don't think so because he leaves in the 12th minute with his initial injury or blood sub. I'm not really sure. But
if he came back on, he must
Rogers
have been
comes
fine.
on for 10 minutes, and then Simonton comes back on, and then McRogers comes back in the game in the 59th minute. So Simonton
Oh,
played.
so well, 59th
30.
minute is about when you'd expect the front row to change. So okay,
Yeah,
hopefully
exactly.
he's
So
all
like
right.
he came back on, so maybe he was just getting checked,
Yeah,
and maybe past an HI, or maybe it was just a blood sub. I don't remember seeing him bleeding, but like I'm not
no,
sure. I don't really know why he came off, but it looked like it's got to be one of those two things, anyways.
Mhm. You did. This is actually the first time you talked about the ever-growing injury list. The 12 guys
I
going
didn't
into
want to
this
talk
week.
about the ever-growing injury list.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, it was at like 7 or 8 before the first game of the season.
Yeah,
I wild. I don't know whether it's terrible luck. I've spoken to some people who have been questioning the S&C. I don't think that's necessarily the case. They have been on the road for 6 weeks. That doesn't help.
Hmm.
They had crap luck last year with subs, with injuries. Sorry, they had 3 or 4 injuries, let's say, but they were all to scrum halves. So we had to bring in a broadcaster who had to unretire for a couple of games.
And he actually played well in that game too.
He played pretty good. Yeah, he
He
looked pretty
played good.
gassed, Jamie. But
Yeah, that's why maybe that's why he's back in the broadcast booth. But
yeah.
like I don't.
Um,
Yeah, he played. They all the scrum halves that randomly showed up last year played pretty well. Like
yeah, they
given the
did.
circumstances and stuff.
They
Like
did. Yeah.
I think
It's great.
Dinardo flew back from Poland to
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year.
that's right. Donato played a couple as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was crazy. We were on like 6th or 7th string scrum half by the end of the season.
yeah. But it's
It's
like
just injury trouble has always been a problem for the last 2 seasons have been a problem. This year is just unbelievable. There's always got to
oh
be a
man,
caveat in going into these games. They've got 6, 7, 8 regular starters out every week.
exactly. I mean, I think it's the thing. It's like we're almost at that point. And like every time we talk about this list, everyone's always like, "Oh, like the Arrows have 12 or 13 guys." I went from 13 to 12 this week, so we're
Yeah, I know. I
up.
highlighted that when
Um,
it's 12. This is a very long list, and it actually went down.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can't play rugby
Ridiculous.
league anymore with the injured list.
Yeah.
But like I think that's one of those things. It's like this team just seems, for whatever reason, this year just incredibly unlucky, like
Mm.
beyond yeah, just like beyond belief. Like it's like every time something positive happens, something negative happens right after it. And it's like, yeah, we scored a try. It's coming back for a penalty. Or,
Yeah.
you play in general a great game against New York. Sam Malcolm gets hurt. You play
Sam Malcolm's conversion goes off the post.
Sam Malcolm's conversion. Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about what kind of makes that a winnable game, right? Is there's some misconversions in there, but like it's
Yeah.
missed. Yeah, you can go, but that's the thing. It's like you said a few moments ago. It's like you can go through a lot of the Arrows games, and yeah, there's missed opportunities there, and I mean this game against New England is I don't even know if you're Peter Smith. Like what do you even say in the locker room after this game? It's just
I don't think, like you were saying about, the fans thinking, I don't think Peter Smith can say anything that the players don't already know about
yeah,
that.
that's yeah. I mean, I think that's the
They're
thing. Like,
professional athletes. Like,
dude, yeah,
they hate losing.
yeah. I'm almost like, I mean, I'm not a coach, and I'm gonna say this with a bit of hyperbole, but I'm almost just like, you can just burn the game tape. Like, do you even need it? Like, just be like, let's just
I
forget
was
about
thinking the
this and
same
move on.
thing.
Like, just
I was thinking earlier, like the score from the second half alone, which was like what, 26-5,
yeah,
that would be a hiding. They'd be like, well, okay, we got
yeah.
dicked.
The score in the
Like,
first half alone, like
well, yeah, I mean,
the score
yeah,
in the first 10 minutes. It was
yeah, that was 21.
21 nothing after 10
Yeah,
minutes. Um, I mean, I think I've said on our show a couple times. It's like sometimes I'm like, maybe the best defense is to just have a massive lead, and maybe part of that is, hey, if you start the game, if you're 10 minutes into the game and it's 21 nothing, not only is that a big lead to overcome, even if there is still 70 minutes left, but it's also kind of demoralizing. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, 20, like you said, after
yeah,
10 minutes, 21 down, and I had a man in the sin bin.
dude, yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, well, okay, I guess we hit the ground, not running, we hit the ground and fell right on
Yeah,
our face. Like,
is
we're done.
yeah, it was like watching a boxing match where it's like there's a knockout in the first 12 seconds, and it's like, oh, like I guess this is over.
And
Like
the
already.
boxing match would end though. We had to
Yeah,
play
no,
another 70
yeah,
minutes.
see, it's worse because unlike like, well, this is exactly, it's like the boxing match, but they just like stand the guy up in the corner and you get to keep
Yeah,
pushing him
yeah.
for the
That's
remaining 11 rounds.
that
Is
is what it felt
essentially what
like.
this
Yeah.
game is like. Uh man, yeah. I don't know anything else to add on this game other than I think, as we kind of said, burn the film and move on because there's not really much else you can
Yeah.
do.
Burn the film and move on. I agree. No, it's just the funny statistical thing about the Free Jacks broke all these records, surpassing the Seawolves, who beat Dallas 74-7
Mhm.
last year. Toronto now play the Seawolves next week.
Oh my god. Yeah. Hey, the Seawolves suck now.
Yeah, they
They're
lost two in a row.
Last two in a row. They suck now. Yeah, the last two in a row. That's actually one thing like that I find hilarious right now. And I think it's partly because the Western Conference head to head against the East has been absolutely annihilating the Eastern Conference.
The Western Conference is a monster. Yeah.
But it's like it's funny to look at in the West. You have the 7-1 San Diego Legion, 4 6-2 teams, and then the Jackals and Hounds are both 1-7 versus the Eastern Conference where you have the Free Jacks at a nice respectable top of the conference 6-2 record, but then New York and Atlanta are both 4-4 and in the playoffs, and everybody else is just kind of like maybe flirting with 500, and then the Arrows are well and lasted 1-7.
So there are 5 teams league wide on 6-2.
There's 5 teams league wide and 6-2.
That's almost half the league.
No, sorry. There's 4 teams league wide that are 6-2.
Oh.
The Legion are 7-1. as of right now, if we did like a hypothetically, if everyone kind of keeps this isn't going to happen, but like if the playoffs started this week, the Utah Warriors would miss the playoffs with a 6-2 record, but the Free Jacks, or sorry, but the Ironworkers and Rugby ATL would be in the playoffs. Rugby ATL, well, at 4-4, Rugby ATL has a -10 point differential, and they would be, and the Utah Warriors could. I mean, the Warriors beat Seattle this weekend too, which so it's. I mean, the West is,
and they've beat the Free Jacks,
and they beat the Free Jacks. Yeah, because nobody, the Free Jacks 2 losses are against Western Conference teams.
Yeah,
like yeah,
it's like someone with
the Jackals beat Toronto, which I'm contributing to the East versus West thing. Yeah. The West is slaughtering. They're 11-5, the Western Conference against the Eastern Conference right now. 11-5.
It's someone from the West is going to miss the playoffs with a damn good record. Like if there's 4 good teams there between Houston, Seattle, San Diego, and oh my god, who didn't I say?
San Diego, Houston, Seattle, Utah.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess I guess we can transition to the rest of the MLR. I do want to, or do you want to do the Academy first? To you. You're the guest. I'll go with whatever you want.
We can touch on the Academy if you want.
All right, we'll touch on the Academy and then come back to this absurd Western Conference.
Yeah.
Because it kind of heated up on this. All right, so we did actually get to watch a very close game before the blowout.
That was an entertaining game.
It was a very entertaining game, and I, for one, before even getting into the game itself, I think is the first time the Arrows have done this little curtain raiser.
I think so. Yeah,
it happening before.
They had some games, I think, during the off season or something, and it was down in, they had a game in Burlington or a game in Oakville or something, but they weren't kind of double headers or anything.
They've never played before an Arrows game, though.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so.
Club Arrows game. So yeah, the Arrows Senior Academy, they had their first match of 2023 against Rugby Quebec, basically the provincial team from Quebec. And yeah, it was a super entertaining game. So Quebec got out to a pretty big lead. They were leading 21-10 at halftime. And then 31-10. The clock wasn't turned on. I don't know how much time was actually left when they went up 31-10. I'm sorry. But somewhere midway through the second half, they were actually up 31-10. The Arrows came back, made it a 1-score game. And with the score at 31-24, the Arrows were really pressing to tie that game. And Quebec ended up, maybe conceding a couple penalties. Maybe you can argue for a penalty try here or there. I don't know. But
there was a fair few, and some of them
there was a couple penalties at the end.
Little suspect, like forward, deliberate knock on or something like that.
Hey, but, exactly. But you know what? That's me with the Arrows colored glasses on.
Yeah,
I have the Quebec colored glasses on. That's good.
Very similar, by the way.
Good. Yeah, very similar. Extremely similar. That's good defense, boys. That's
it works. Worked.
I'll exchange a few penalties for not giving up a try to tie the game.
Winning the game, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's fair. That's a fair trade. There wasn't a card. No, was there a card?
There was one card. There was one card. Okay. They did get one card. That's why I was kind of like, penalty tries coming. If there's a little bit more time on the clock, maybe you're one extra penalty. Either way, Quebec wins 31-24. Toronto got tries from Brendan Black. Josh Dusum had 2, and the player that we have identified as the small number 18, because there was 2 guys wearing number 18, and quite frankly, I don't know who actually scored this try, but the other guy looked like the Mountain from Game of Thrones.
He was enormous.
Yeah. So this guy, James, while we were watching this game together, dubbed this guy the small 18. So he got the try. And by saying small 18, this dude's probably still like 6'2", 220.
Yeah. It's all relative. He could bench press me pretty easily, but he was small compared to the other bloke.
Yeah, exactly. He was very small. Yeah, James DC added 2 conversions. On the Quebec side of the ball, they had tries from Lucas Dietz, Brahim Mahoudi, Jackson Marquette, and Maxime Plante. Maxime Perot-Briere added 4 conversions and a penalty to get to their total. James, any thoughts on the Academy game?
It was quite good to see. That was just like you said, the first time that the Arrows have done this and done like a curtain raiser thing. It was nice to see the Academy actually, for the first time. There are a few familiar names. They had Brendan Black starting, who's played for the big club, and Hank Stevenson as well, who's played for the big club this year. And I thought the crowd was quite good, considering it was, a free event. There was no water and minimal staff because they were preparing for the MLR game. That was probably 100, 150, maybe 200 people there.
Yeah, maybe 200 people plus the almost the entire Arrows big club was
Yeah, that's true.
which was actually kind of cool if you want to circle back to a little bit of the game day experience and stuff, because those a lot of the Arrows players did come over to watch the game, and basically
and that's both Arrows injured players and the starting roster.
and
They were there for the first half too. Yeah, that was quite, I suppose, unique.
Yeah, and I think they spent pretty much the whole half signing autographs for kids.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually watched any of the game, or
No.
yeah, I think they just so like that was cool to see. Yeah,
I thought it was quite an entertaining game, to be honest. As somewhat of a neutral. I'm not from Quebec, and I cheer for the Arrows, but
yeah,
it was a friendly game. It wasn't, there was nothing at stake.
No, it was good. It was I thought it was still entertaining though. It's like a high level of rugby, and I mean I think it's something that, especially from the Academy point of view, like I think the jump from like say university to the MLR, obviously MLR does a collegiate draft, and there's some guys going from college to college university to the MLR that like say like Sam Gala that is absolutely balling out in this league. But
that's the exception, not the rule. There's been
exactly
maybe 4 guys that have done that in the history of the MLR.
Exactly. That's what I was going to get at. But I think like for a lot of guys, it's a big jump. And I think the Academy is something that you need to kind of bridge that gap. I think Brendan Black and Hank Stevenson, to me, when they were playing for the big club Arrows, we need a better nickname for this. When they're playing for the real Arrows, and not the small Arrows. I don't know. People nickname the Marlies like the baby Leafs. I don't know. Should we just go
for the baby Arrows?
Baby Arrows.
Could work.
Yeah.
See if it catches on. Put it out there.
I still think it's a missed opportunity to call the Academy Top Gun, but that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're like that's what it should be called, right? It should be called. I know the Arrows are using a lot of Top Gun stuff during like their match day experience now, but I think like, how is the Academy not called Top Gun? Unless there's probably a copyright thing there, but like
maybe
nickname it Top Gun. I think the Academy.
Yeah, come on, just you're playing into the whole aviation jet thing anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's what you're named after.
We should call it Top Gun. Get like Corey Hector on the sidelines, like aviators and like a pilot's jacket while he's on the sidelines. That'd be great.
Okay, well let's start only calling it Top Gun.
Only calling it Top Gun. All right.
So everyone else is gonna have to figure out what that means and call it Top Gun too.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I think like Hank Stevenson and Brendan Black obviously have played well for the Arrows. And in this game, while they were playing for Top Gun, I think there were clearly two of the best players on the field.
You could tell.
Yeah.
You could tell that they played.
They can play at a higher level. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like yes, it was kind of noticeable. Obviously, Brendan Black got the ball rolling as far as started the scoreboard ticking over, but he got a really nice pass from his teammate at both Guelph and for the Oakville Crusaders, Jacob Ince. But he like it was a really nice pass, and when I was talking to him after the game, kind of credited the chemistry that they built by playing through for other teams. And Ince is also part of that high performance academy as well, the high performance Top Gun. To get so they've been practicing with the big club as well, and I think that kind of showed on that play, and that was really nice. Josh Dewsome had his first try, unreal run back. Quebec had a really nice goal line stand, and they earned a penalty, and the kick didn't find touch, and Dewsome just took the ball and was like, peace guys, and ran through everybody and scored a try. It was really nice.
So that's a bit like the big club too. The best attacking is from when they're not in the opponent's 22.
Yeah, give the ball to the winger and let them run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. They did have I think They used the width really well. Do some second try, had a nasty offload from flanker Max Goodwin, who was also playing out on the wing, kind of in that. It is kind of interesting. I think it's a good thing that it's like you kind of see the arrow, like if the arrows are at their peak, what their attack looks like, and it's like you can see the academy also kind of playing like that, which is
Yeah, it's
probably
very fluid,
yeah,
free flowing rugby, and it is good to watch when it
when it clicks,
happens,
it's
when it
really
works.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think in this game they had like that's kind of what the attack kind of looked like, which totally makes sense because if you're an academy and you're trying to graduate guys to playing for the big club later, like you want everyone on the same
you'd have
page.
the
You want
same
to make that as a
systems.
transition, play the same system and stuff. So that makes total
Exactly.
sense. So I
Yeah,
thought that was really cool to see. Quebec hits really hard. That was
yeah.
something I
They
also learned. Yeah.
they can
Um,
bloody tackle those
yeah,
guys, and
yeah.
which is weird because I think we were talking about it at the game. They didn't look that massive,
No, but they
like physically, but they could damn well hit. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I think like that was a really good game, and I know there's a few more of these academy games lined up.
Hmm.
So I mean, if you're an Arrows fan, like it's a free rugby game, and quite frankly, it was more fun than the
It
MLR
was.
time
It was.
around. So
The only advantage of the Arrows game was they were serving alcohol
because you needed that, you
because you
needed
needed it.
alcohol
Yeah.
to watch the Arrows
The other
game.
one you didn't need. It was just quite a
Yeah,
good rugby game.
exactly. I'm surprised they didn't run out of beer at this game. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, I would, you know, like if the arrows, I think they're doing a couple more. I should have pulled the dates up, but I didn't.
There's at
And
least one more, I think.
yeah, there's a couple more. And like if they're gonna do like a little curtain raiser again, I would highly recommend coming
Hmm.
down earlier. Watch the game. It's really entertaining, and plus it'll you know, it might be cool to say you saw some of these guys play before they made their MLR debuts, and you can claim all that fun fandom on them.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm just pulled up the academy schedule here right now. It looks
Oh,
like
thanks. Thanks
next
for doing my
weekend.
job, James.
That's okay. Next weekend, yeah. They're playing the Atlantic Selects
Next
at
weekend before Seattle.
1:30
Oh,
p.m. kickoff on
nice.
Sunday.
All right, go. Let's go down for that then too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And then there's a couple of weeks, and I think they're playing New York Selects again at YLS, or
nice.
probably Alumni Field again. Yeah, Alumni Field on Sunday, June the 11th. I think that's before San Diego.
San Diego's in June. Yes.
And that's the only other two
That might.
curtain raisers, as they're called,
Hmm.
prior to so that's a bit of a funny one, that second one, because they're playing the New York
I
Selects
think part. Oh,
prior to San
yeah,
Diego.
yeah. June. You said June 11th. June 11th,
Yeah.
San Diego. I think a big thing though for like you kind of look at the teams the Arrows are playing. It's so what do we got? Quebec, the Atlantic Selects in New York. They're
Hmm.
the teams that
That's
are
just for the
close
ones at New York. Sorry, at
at York
York
Lions. Eh?
Lions.
It's
Yeah.
teams that are geographically close,
Hmm.
right? Which is
Yeah, they're
probably
playing
what it's
they're
gonna
playing Quebec again in Montreal
be. Mm.
and BC and Atlanta. Oh, the Coast to Coast Cup
Coast to Coast
in
Cup, yeah.
end of June.
Yeah, so I mean they're playing teams of I guess a similar level, or
Yeah.
at least what is deemed to be able to provide them some competition. Um, and yeah, like the teams that are kind of close by. It's not that hard for New York to get up here. It's not that hard to get to
No, that's true.
if Quebec's playing their home game in Montreal. I'm not like if that's not if they drove here from Montreal, like that's not a very far drive. And then the East Coast you can drive to in one day if you really want to. Um, so yeah, so that'll be good. So if you get the chance, come down earlier and check that out before the Arrows annihilate the Seawolves next week.
Yeah, yeah. Seawolves
Exactly.
have fallen off. They're well, that's a bit of a funny thing about the Seawolves. I suppose we'll transition to the rest of the MLR now, shall we?
Yeah, for sure
Is
we shall. So we'll go through all right, so I'm gonna quickly go through the scores and what happened in this game, and then I'll turn it back to you for anything that you noticed this round and that you want to discuss. So down in Texas, pretty physical encounter. Canadian Kyle Steeves had a really nice run up in the build up to Adrian Boyson's try, but it was unfortunately not enough for the Dallas Jackals to get their second win in franchise history. So the Houston Sabercats defeat them 33-21. And we were all wondering why Atlanta changed their jerseys to green. And if you're a Nola Gold fan, it's probably because that's the color of kryptonite, which Atlanta is to you. The Nola Gold remain winless against Rugby ATL. And to make matters worse, Tom Florence looked like he might have sustained a significant injury. Hopefully he's okay, but it's not a fun sight for Nola Gold fans for sure. The aforementioned Seattle Seawolves were dealt their second loss in a row. Utah scored early and often, also overcame 2 yellow cards early in the game. Utah wins 41-35.
That's how you do it.
Huh? Yes.
That's how you overcome 2 yellow cards.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like, it's much easier to outscore bad defense than it is to outdefend the inability to score. Yeah. And Utah is the best team in the league at outscoring defense. Not to say that their defense is particularly bad, but they score a lot, is my point. Andrew Coe extended his try scoring streak, and Graydon Bowd had two conversions on the day. Bowd's team ultimately came out on top, despite New York leading 24-12 at halftime. Old Glory DC kind of with a big upset win over the defending champions, 42-31. And out west, Jason Higgins was tossing out some dimes in this game, including setting up Ma Nanu and Moriani's try. Nanu looking like an absolute legend playing in a league that he is way too good for, which is probably an accurate assessment of what Ma Nanu is.
He could probably play for 10 more years and still look absolutely world class in MLR.
Oh yeah, no, he might be the best center in the league. I'm not even sure he's trying.
No, I don't think he is.
I don't think he is either. But Nanu looked absolutely unreal. San Diego scores 8 tries. Michael DeWall from Chicago scored a try in the 63rd minute to make it 29-24. And then the San Diego Legion remembered that they're the San Diego Legion and absolutely buried them with 3 tries in the last 12 minutes. 48-24 Legion final score. James, what'd you notice this week?
So you mentioned that Atlanta again beats NOLA for the 8th time. NOLA have never beaten Rugby Atlanta.
It's not a rivalry, guys, if one team just kills you all.
No, no, it's true. It geographically, yes, but
no,
that wasn't.
Yeah, there's nothing.
That was NOLA falling back into what they did the first 3 games of the season, when everyone was going into the season, everyone was like, oh, NOLA look pretty good. They look a lot better than they have done, and they did for 3 games. But the 3 games before that, no.
Speaking of Jekyll and Hyde teams,
yes, yeah, that's not within the same game. That is from week to week.
Yeah, exactly. That's a week to week one.
Yeah, or maybe 3 weeks to 3 weeks. I'm not really sure. That's bizarre.
Yeah, they scored phases. Yeah, they're down. Utah's streaking though. They got 4.
Utah's streaking, like we mentioned earlier. They've beaten the Free Jacks. It was a close game for the Arrows until they decided it minute or something. Yeah. And like you said, they are the team that outscores good defense or bad defense, I suppose. Yeah. They just score too much for you, and they have that brand and they're sticking with it. They look quite scary, and they look like the team to, they look like the cat among the chickens in the Western Conference.
That's all right. I didn't understand that metaphor either way, whatever animal you went with. So
all right.
And San Diego, the best team in the league?
Yeah.
Well, not even no debate.
No, they last year going into the season, my favorites to win the Shield were New York, and they did. And this year going into the season, my favorites to win the Shield are San Diego.
All right, so with that being said, then midway point of the season, like what's your final prediction? Obviously, you just said San Diego from the West. So who do you got in the East? Is it New England?
I think it's New England and then the rest at the minute. They still look like they don't quite look as good as New England from last year. I don't know whether that's just I was going to say they've missed a few. A few players have departed. Some of them have come back.
Some of them have, yeah. They had
Not
a
the big
really
one.
good off-season signing the Toronto Arrows roster, so that was
Yeah, that's true. They have half the Canadian.
yeah. They signed the other half of Team Canada,
Yeah.
on the Arrows. Yeah,
Which we're not bitter about at all.
no,
But they look like it's really just. It feels like the East don't really want to go up against the West. They're just kind of like, no, you go ahead, go
yeah,
on, that's fine. Because the West is just a slaughterhouse.
yeah,
It really
yeah.
is.
No, it's yeah. It's like I said, it's the West is I guess they played 16 times this year, West versus East. The
Hmm.
West has won 11 of them. So,
That's not
and that
close.
and that includes like the Dallas Jackals' only win is against an Eastern Conference team. Like that's where we're
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
The like the Jackals are beating Eastern Conference teams this year. No disrespect to the Dallas Jackals, unreal color scheme, really cool team name. Um,
Great logo. Yeah.
Great logo. Everything about the team's actually kind of cool. 1-7, they beat an Eastern Conference team, though. That's all I'm saying. The Arrows, I
Yeah.
guess, are also 1-7. It's
And
the
beat a
Arrows
Western Conference
somehow
team.
the
Like,
Arrows have more wins against the Western Conference than New England does. So I don't know how this league works anymore.
oh
It's true.
yeah, and that's
Yeah, technically true. It's true. I have stats too, James.
New England beat Chicago.
Did they beat Chicago? Oh, they did beat Chicago. Damn. Oh, they also beat the Jackals too. I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh,
Who
Derek,
did
come
they
on.
lose to? Because they lost to two Western Conference teams.
Utah
Utah
and
and yeah,
Seattle.
that might be it. I just remember that they're two. Okay, yeah. So Dallas has already played all four of their Western Conference games. Dallas has played four, so they only got two games left against the West. So
This is what I was thinking, just to bring it back to the Arrows.
yeah,
Is the other bottom dwellers of the league, Chicago and Dallas,
yeah,
the Arrows play only once, and they've
yeah.
played them both.
They played them both. Yeah,
So
one
it
and one.
it could be a 1-15 season. I'm hoping not, because
Man,
they have to play the
that's
big
dark.
dogs from the West,
That's
and
well, like even this road trip right now, like this homestand right now, because I know from the Arrows' point of view, we were obviously all excited. The Arrows are coming home. You put out your tweets and Instagram stuff about how great the Arrows are at home, and then we looked at the schedule and it was like, oh, New York, New England, Seattle.
reigning champions, top of the conference, and at the time
At the
unbeaten.
time
Yeah,
undefeated. And then after Seattle, they're going to NOLA, and then they
but they
got
love Nola.
yeah,
Toronto
yeah,
loves playing New
love
England,
playing
New
in
England, New
NOLA.
Orleans.
Yeah, I think geez, that's more kryptonite there. Actually, Captain Canuck. If you ever read Captain Canuck comic books, his arch nemesis is a guy named Mister Gold. So it does.
Oh, there you go. It's
Yeah,
on
it
brand.
tracks. It tracks. Yeah, Canucks don't do very well against Gold. So there's Then after that they play Atlanta, Old Glory, New England, Houston, San Diego. They got Houston and San Diego in the two of the last three games of the season, and then they play Atlanta to close it. Or sorry,
That's
NOLA to close out the year.
that's brutal. That's
Fun.
that.
They're at home this year. So they got everybody in the East, but their home Western Conference games are Seattle, Houston, and San Diego. Are their home Western Conference games? Nice.
Even
Yeah,
that's just horrible.
perfect. Yeah.
I think there is a chance, if the Arrows turn up and play like they did last week, there is a good chance they can beat ATL and they can beat Old Glory. Maybe even Nola if
there's
Nola don't turn up.
I mean, there's the whole shout out to the Miami Sharks joining the league next year, but there's the whole any given Sunday idea, right? So like they could win. Like we said, it's like, misconversion here. Maybe you beat New York. Right. A couple of lineouts go astray against Atlanta. Maybe you win that game. A lineout doesn't go astray against Dallas. Maybe you win that one. Right. Like you could win. Like they could win.
They have proven this season
Yeah,
that they can play.
they can. It's just gotta click entirely.
Yeah.
Anything else that stuck out at you from this round, or do you want to go into a little bit of some of the funnest stats that you got for us for the first half of the MLR season.
Well, I'll just say, congrats to OGDC as well. That was their first win ever against New York in 6 attempts. And that was a bit of an upset.
Yeah, they look
So
real
they
good.
got that monkey off that back. They did look quite good.
Yeah.
I dropped Lautaro Bavaro from my fantasy team. So,
Oh, that's so much fun. Actually, that was something I wanted to ask you though. How you're part of the Fantasy Ruckers League. They have
yes, I am.
podcast Fantasy Ruckers. I for one love fantasy and really want to see MLR kind of dive into it a lot more because I think that's, especially in North America, probably one of the biggest ways that sports fans consume their favorite products and content of their favorite league. So, as a participant in this league, how's your fantasy team doing?
I'm doing pretty good actually,
Yeah,
surprisingly good. There's a lot of banter in the we've got a Discord server for it. There's a lot of banter for that because I'm the one providing the stats that they score the players off. So every single time I win, they're like, well, we know why that is. I've rigged it. Yeah, of course.
That's true. That's true.
And it's true. I do. I completely just cheat and
Yeah, no, I totally
win.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think I'm fourth at the minute out of 10. I think I'm 5-3, but I'm not sure I'm going to win this week. I started Blair Cowan, who didn't even play. Like I said, I dropped Bavaro because he had one great game and then a load of average games, and then I dropped him, and then he scored 2 tries and had a blinder.
who's been near the MLR stats? Do you have a different team name or is it just MLR stats?
It's just MLR stats for that.
MLR
Yeah.
stats. Oh, I was going to say, do you have like a funny fantasy team name, like Let's Get Ready to Rumball or something like that? But
No, I was thinking of a few, but it's hard for me now to be like, okay, who am I playing that this week? Who is that? Like,
fair enough, fair enough. Who's your star player for the MLR stats squad?
right now, I have my back three are just on fire at the minute, and they are Teranga Tira Waitokia because he was still classed as a center, so I could play him
nice.
as that was fine. Mika Cruze and Marco Keefe.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's
pretty good.
That's
Yeah,
pretty solid. Yeah.
and then I've got like I said, I've got Blair Cowan and Charles Elton. So they're in my back rowers, and so you get a front row, lock, back row, flex forward, then scrum half, fly half, center, back three, flex back.
Okay, nice.
So I'm playing, two back three and two back row basically, and they balance each other out in terms of lots of tackles and lots of meters made. So that kind of works.
Let's say, like, what kind of what stats are you guys using to actually
The primary stats are, I think, well, obviously tries. You allocate one kicker, so they're typically the fly half. You use meters gained. I think it's 0.1 point per meter gained or something like that. So it makes 150 meters, you get 15 points. Yeah, 15 points. Then tackles, turnovers, steals. If they play 70 minutes, you get a point. 80 minutes, you get 1.5, I think. Yellow cards are deductions, stuff like that. It's quite good. I know this is the first time that they've used. This is only the second season, obviously, but the first time they've used kind of those more granular stats other than just kind of try scored. But it's really adding a completely different kind of dimension to the fantasy rugby Discord. And by that I mean not the app, I mean like the chat around
it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. I love hearing about it and stuff. I think to me, it's like whenever I'm talking to my friends that like I know are huge sports fans and I really want them to get into rugby, and be like, hey, like what would actually get you to be interested in this league? The answer I always hear back is fantasy or some sort of gambling related thing. Which I mean, the league looks like they're kind of starting to lean into. I guess they kind of got their own sort of NFT fantasy thing that
I'm still a little suspect on that. I tried to just put $10 in it to try it out and see what the hell it was, but I don't think it accepted it. And my theory is that it's a Canadian card, so I'm not sure actually if Canadian people can actually take part, which is wild for a league that's in Canada.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think ultimately, I think that's why it's really cool seeing something like Fantasy Ruckers, even like
Hmm.
I'm glad you seem like you're enjoying yourself. I hope everybody else in that league is. Everyone sounds like they're having a good time. So
Yeah, like we've got obviously the guys that run it. We've got Ryan and Vandy doing that, and then commissioner is Ryan, and then his brother is top of the league and won't shut up about it.
yeah,
And then we've got MLR All Access doing it. We've got Rugby Wrap Up in there. Lots of the MLR kind of, I suppose, the people you see talking about MLR on social media.
yeah,
Lots of them are involved in it, and it is good fun.
yeah. No, and I mean, I hope it keeps. I honestly, I hope it keeps growing. I hope eventually the league can develop some sort of widespread, easily accessible to everybody, type of fantasy league. Because I think that'll be a lot of fun. With fantasy, though, if the league does it, perhaps more access to stats. But for right now, James, that's exactly the service that you provide to all these MLR fans. So we are at the official halfway point of the MLR season. What is, when you're looking at the spreadsheets, what's jumping out at you? I'm assuming they're spreadsheets. I don't know. Maybe you
They are lots and lots and lots of spreadsheets.
lots
Yeah,
and lots of spreadsheets.
but I threw some little things together. Nate Augsburger, scrum half turned wing prodigy, I guess, is on 9 tries now in 9 weeks of games, and that includes a bye for San Diego, and I think also one he didn't play in. So
Nice.
he if it stays on, he will score 18 tries this season. Which is, well, right
A
now he's
decent
got
pace.
a quarter of all San Diego's tries are Nate Augsburger tries,
Wow.
and 19% of all San Diego points.
19% of all San Diego's points. And San Diego has a lot of points too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do.
that's impressive.
What's weirder, another kind of thing like this is the league's top scorer at the minute, Davy Koetser from Houston, is on, I think he's just past 80 points. He's got over a third of Houston's points, and Houston have 3 top 10 try scorers, not including him.
Wow, that is, jeez. Okay, so maybe that might explain why San Diego and Houston are both at the top of the Western Conference.
Mm,
They seem to be doing
they
all right.
they're bristling with offensive weapons there, both of them.
Yeah. With the your Augsburger stat there, what's the MLR record for tries in a season by one guy?
Since I've been doing it, I think it was 12.
By who?
I think it was Fidel last year.
Last year. So he's got so he basically has, if Augsburger wants the record, he has 8 games to get
To
four.
score 3 tries. Well, four to
Three to
break
try
it.
it
Yeah.
and 4 to okay.
I
Wow.
think it's 12. I might be mistaken there.
Yeah.
Thing is, this kind of brings
Might get
parallels
that by
to,
week 10.
you could do it next week.
Yeah.
It brings parallel to Dougie Fife, who I think his first season in New England, he shot out to 9 tries straight away,
Yeah.
and then took him like until I think kind of a few games into the following season for him to score his 10th try.
Oh wow. So just yeah. Wow. I don't know. It seems like teams are having a hard. Augsburger just seems like he finds a way to score no matter
Yeah,
what
it's
right now.
wild for a guy that everyone thought, oh well, that'll be their first scrum half, first
Yeah.
scrum, and now he's top scorer in the league and on the wing. It's
San
mad.
Diego's backline is just nasty.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else jumping out at you? Or
I suppose I'll say something Canadian.
yeah,
Um,
let's hear it.
Deshaun Bowen scored a hat trick last week. Don't know if you saw.
Oh no, I wasn't aware.
That was the 25th hat trick in MLR history, the third by a Canadian,
Oh,
the first by a Canadian born in Canada.
oh, okay. So DTH, did DTH have one? I'm trying to guess who the
No,
two are. Oh man, Canadian born in Canada. That's the first hat trick for. That was the second hat trick for the Arrows, and I know the other one was Montero.
Montero. Yeah,
Uh born in Canada. Oh man,
they're not.
they're not born in Canada.
Yeah, they're not born in Canada. They are Canadian players. They're not kind
Higgins
of
had
your
a hat trick.
typical
Jason Higgins.
Higgins had a hat
Higgins
trick
had a
last
hat
year.
trick.
Yeah. It was while the Arrows were going through all their scrum half woes, then Higgins was scoring hat tricks in San Diego.
Diego, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah. Who would the other one be?
The other one is from a few years ago.
Oh, oh man. I'm trying to think of where guys are born. They play for Seattle a few years ago.
No.
No. Oh wow. Oh man, I got nothing.
Robbie Povey,
Robbie Povey. Ah, yeah. All
who
right.
scored, I think, something stupid like 34 points in a game or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. Because he kicked all like the conversions or whatever. Damn.
And scored a hat trick. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Houston needs to play him more this year too. I know they're doing fine, and they have another 10 that's killing it. Play him.
Yeah. It does seem strange to see Robbie Povey on the bench a bit too much for my liking anyway.
Yeah. No,
But
it's bizarre. Not a whole lot of North American fly halves in the league this year.
no,
Genuinely.
that's true actually.
Shane
Povey's one
O'Leary,
we just
Shane
seen.
O'Leary when he plays.
Yeah, that's true.
At least starting fly halves. I mean, obviously there's a couple of fly halves, but
Noel Reed. Oh, he's not. He's Canadian. Never mind.
he's Irish, yeah. But I mean, like, even in the sense is like Povey is a fly half, but like they don't. Houston doesn't start him at fly half. And it's like I guess
No,
Bow has been getting a couple more starts for DC.
that's true. But he's been playing fullback.
Yeah, he was fly half this week though. He started at fly half this
Oh, was
week.
he?
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, it's a good point. There's not really any Canadian fly halves in the league.
No, there's very few, really. Very few American fly halves too, I think. Like at least again, starting. Seems like a lot of teams go with a foreign fly half.
That's true. And well, Will Hooley.
Yeah,
That's all that comes to mind.
yeah. Well, yeah. If you got the best one, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Okay. So we got a couple of cool stats, some try scoring things standing out. Anything weird and unusual that you have that stands out for some, just anything that's just kind of generally bizarre?
Well, I have Luke White, previously in LA, previously with the Raptors, now with Chicago. I think is the only player in MLR to have played in the front row, the second row, and the back row.
I'm not
in
going to
an MLR
argue with
game.
you on that. If that's
I
that,
think
there can't be two. Well, Fawcett's
can't.
played 8.
Yeah, that's true. He hasn't played lock.
He might be a little short for a lock, though.
You'd have to be such I wouldn't say, for want of a better word, a strange sized person. You'd have to be, thick and tall to play front row and lock. Back row, you're kind of set.
Lock.
I think I was having this conversation with Rob Hammerschmidt because he's doing the touchline stuff in Chicago.
Yeah.
And he was asking me, hey, has anyone else done it? And I don't think they have.
I would be surprised if someone has. Like, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of guys that do lock back row.
Yes.
There's a lot of players that would do
They're getting more and more interchangeable. I think Gola's done it. I think Mason Flesh has done it in Toronto, just to name a few off the very top of my head.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of guys that are able to do that. Whether they do it or not, I feel like even if there's like injuries and stuff, I feel like you can get players that can do that. Front row is so specialized though, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You don't know how to scrum. Like, you obviously can't play in the front row if you don't know how to scrum.
Absolutely not. No, you have to be kind of qualified. I'm not sure what the qualification is, but you have to know how to do it because just
James
through safety.
O'Neill played that one preseason game at hooker, but again,
that's true.
Probably a little too. He probably isn't built to be a lock.
Or give it a few more injuries, he might have to.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure.
I genuinely can't think of anyone else. So
feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone else has played either. All three, sorry.
Any backs that have played every back position? That's probably way harder. Would that be way harder? I don't even know.
I think.
Has someone?
Well, I think the scrum half would be the.
Scrum half would be like yeah.
Do you mean like both inside and outside center? And
inside
both
center, yeah.
Blind side, open side.
Well,
wing?
I was gonna say that's the weird thing. It's like we've seen forwards play. We've seen because Mitch Eady played center and then Billy Meeks played flanker. So it's like we get forwards.
That's true. Good point.
Or whatever. But I can't think of anybody else that's done all three in the front row like that or in the pack like that. So I mean, you're the king of all MLR stats, man. So if you say it, I'm gonna take it as gospel.
No pressure. I'm pretty sure
all the pressure. You see, because I use your stuff on this podcast, so you can't be wrong because then that makes me wrong later down the line. So that's
Oh,
all the pressure in the world on you. I'm not saying that there's no pressure.
I did check, and everyone I looked at that I kind of suspected hasn't. They haven't played front row
Yeah.
typically, like you were saying. That's a good question about the backs, though. I might have to look into that.
Oh, look into it. Let me know.
There
That'd
can't be too many players that it'll be the scrum half. It'll be the equivalent of front row, I guess.
All right. Well, I think it's about time to wrap up. We usually end each podcast with some predictions. Stu has offered up his. I'll offer up mine if you want to chime in.
Sure,
We might as well get you in. We'll try to go through this a little quick. So up first, we got New England versus Atlanta. Stu has chosen New England. Seems like the obvious choice to me.
yeah, that's a pretty safe choice.
Yeah.
I think I'd stick with New England as well.
And especially since Stu's not here to defend himself. Stu is currently 20-28 in predicting games. So
So basically, anything he says on this podcast, just disregard it. He doesn't know anything.
Disregard everything. And if you're a betting man, just pick whatever Stu says and go with the opposite answer of that. Up next, DC, Utah. Stu has DC.
I think I go Utah.
I'm 100% going Utah. Do you hear the conversation that we just had about how much the Western Conference annihilates the Eastern Conference?
That could be a very high scoring game.
Oh, that'll be a fun game, though.
It will be fun.
Gonna be fun. There's going to be no defense. That'll be a fun game. Up next, San Diego versus Dallas. Stu has picked Dallas. I'm just saying that so he can't defend himself. He actually picked San Diego.
Oh, God. I was going to say, jeez.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the great thing. Stu's not here. I can make up anything.
Yeah, you can. That's true. Oh, you went 0-6. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Diego.
San Diego. Watch Dallas win now after we made that joke. Chicago versus NOLA. Stu's got NOLA.
Depends which NOLA turn up. I'll go Chicago for fun.
I was going to say, is it going to be Jekyll or Hyde that'll show up for this one? I don't know. Western Conference kills the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, I think I agree with you, Chicago, on this one. Houston versus New York. Stu picked Houston.
Oh, that's going to be a good game as well, I think.
Great game. It's a good week match.
I think Houston, yeah.
Ooh, Stu also said, yeah. Man, that's tough. I'm going to pick New York just to be different from you and Stu. But, I mean, all the data, I guess, suggests that Houston should win this game. But last one, Seattle versus Toronto. And I just want to point out, and I'm not actually changing this, Stu has taken the opportunity where he is not on this podcast to face the immediate repercussions of picking the team that's playing Toronto.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah, it's the only time he has done it all year. I will stick by Toronto. Please, everybody, go yell at Stu for picking Seattle like the traitor he is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I picked Toronto, 81-5. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And breaking the record. Exactly. Yeah. And breaking the record. No, 81-3. 81.
Oh, yeah, even better.
Taking everything from them. 81-3. Yeah, now I guess it would be a good time to mention that when I do have James on because Stu could not make it tonight. All he did was leave me a voicemail that said, they found me, I have to go. To which allegedly is, and I have to say allegedly for legal reasons, is he stole the Toronto Arrows game plan and gave it to New England. So the RCMP and CSIS is after him. So
I can believe it. He looks like the type. He sounds like the type.
Yeah, that's clearly.
He picked Seattle. He's clearly not a fan.
Yeah, exactly. He's clearly a traitor, right? So that's the only reason I can think of. For why he's not. That's the reason why he's not here. So I don't know. I guess he might be back in a couple weeks when the RCMP finds him.
They let him go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they don't let him go. Yeah. So James, I think that's it. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out every episode we've ever recorded, as well as some written content, players post-match interviews, one of which we alluded to quite a bit during this episode. You can check all that out at our new website, rougerugby.ca. You can find our podcast on basically every platform that you listen to, including Spotify for podcasters, formerly Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. We're also on YouTube, and we're We're also on YouTube. Follow us on social media at Stu always does this part. I am totally butchering this. Follow us across social media at Rouge Rugby on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, anything else that you can think of. I'm sure it's at Rouge Rugby. Stu has set all that up. Also, part of this script is asking me where you can follow me. I don't know. I can just anchorman this and keep reading it. So, Derek, where can the people find you on social media? So glad you asked, Derek. And it is at Brissette the Jet across all social media platforms. Stu, for the record, is at H4RDMAN if you want to follow his journey of hiding from the RCMP after giving away valuable arrows information to the New England Free Jacks. James, I don't know why anybody that would listen to this podcast, any MLR fan, would possibly not be following you on their social media. But if for some reason they are not, where can they find you?
So I am at MLR Stats on Instagram and at Jamdelay, JAMDELAY on Twitter.
Perfect. And yeah, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you at James, are you going to be at the game next week?
I'll see you at the game. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll see everybody at the game. We hope you can join us again for the next episode, and go Arrows.
Go Arrows.